While the world's diplomatic attention was fixed on the high-stake preparations for summits in Alaska and Moscow, the grim reality of the war on the ground in Ukraine's Donetsk Oblast has delivered a catastrophic verdict. The long unbattled Ukrainian defensive line in the Pokrovsk sector has shattered. What began weeks ago as a slow, grinding Russian advance has accelerated into a full-scale operational breakthrough, resulting in the collapse of a significant portion of the front. Russian forces are now pouring through the breach, advancing rapidly westward in a devastating blow to the Ukrainian military. This battlefield disaster represents the most significant Russian military victory in over a year, and serve as a brutal punctuation mark to the diplomatic pressure being exerted by the Trump administration, turning the theoretical realism exposed by Washington into a harsh and bloody reality for Kyiv. The collapse is not a sudden failure, but the culminating of months of unrelenting Russian pressure against a Ukrainian army systematically starved of the resources needed to defend itself. The breakthrough occurred after Russian forces employing their characteristic and overwhelming firepower finally broke the will of the exhausted Ukrainian defenders holding the main fortified lines west of Avdiivka. For weeks, Russian aviation had pummeled these positions with hundreds of powerful guided aerial bombs each day, systematically turning concrete bunkers and trench systems into dust. This aerial terror was followed by constant round-the-clock artillery barrage that pinned down Ukrainian troops and prevented reinforcement or supplies from reaching the front. Finally, massive coordinated assault by Russian armored columns and large infantry formation managed to punch through several weak points in the line simultaneously. The initial penetration quickly widened as Russian assault groups exploited the chaos, fanning out behind the main Ukrainian positions and threatening the defenders with encirclement. This forced a hasty and disorganized retreat, which in some areas turned into a rout, leaving behind valuable equipment and exposing the flanks of adjacent Ukrainian units. The consequences of this collapse have been swift and dire. Russian forces have advanced dozens of kilometers in a matter of days, a speed of movement not seen since the early months of the war. They have captured a string of towns and villages that were once considered deep in the Ukrainian rear, including the key logistical hub of Pokrovsk itself, the city that gave the entire sector its name. The fall of Pokrovsk is a strategic calamity for Ukraine. It effectively severs the main supply artery for the southern portion of the Donbas front and opened a direct path for Russian forces to push toward the major industrial city of Dnipro. Russian forwards units are now fighting on the outskirts of other critical towns, threatening to unhinge the entire Ukrainian defensive posture in the east. The Ukrainian General Staff has been forced to acknowledge the extremely difficult operational situation, stating that its troops have withdrawn to new prepared defensive lines further west. However, reports from the ground suggest that these new lines are far less formidable than the one that just collapsed, consisting of little more than hastily dug trenches in open field. The root cause of the Pokrovsk collapse is unequivocally the severe and protracted shortage of artillery ammunition and manpower that has plagued the Ukrainian military. This critical deficit is a direct consequence of the significant reduction in military aid from the United States under the Trump administration. Ukrainian brigades in the sector were defending with artillery rations as low as 10 shells per day per gun, while the Russians were firing thousands. This disparity made it impossible to conduct effective counter-battery fire or to break up Russian assault formation before they reached Ukraine's line. The defenders were left to fight with rifles, machine guns, and a limited number of FPV drones against waves of Russian armor and infantry, an impossible task. The collapse serves as a tragic validation of the repeated warning from Ukrainian commanders and military analysts who have cautioned for months that without a sustained flow of Western munitions, the front line could not hold. In Washington, the news of the Ukrainian collapse was met with a somber but resolute reaction from the Trump administration, which viewed the development as a tragic but inevitable outcome that reinforced the logic of its peace initiative. A statement from the White House acknowledged the grave turn of events but placed the responsibility on the previous failure to find a diplomatic solution sooner. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters that the event near Pokrovsk are the reality we have been speaking of. This is why President Trump is so committed to ending the fighting. Continuing to fuel a war that cannot be won on the battlefield only leads to more needless death and destruction. At the Pentagon, Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth provided a grim military assessment, confirming the scale of the Russian advance. Ukrainian forces fought with immense courage, Hegseth said, but they were facing overwhelming odds in terms of mass and firepower. No army can sustain a defense indefinitely without the necessary logistical support. The message from the administration is unmistakable. The military collapse in the Donbas is the price of rejecting a negotiated peace, and it dramatically strengthened President Trump's hand as he prepared to meet President Putin, armed with the argument that the only alternative to his proposed deal is Ukraine's complete military defeat. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel. And so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. And that is actually what makes the show going. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to World Global Conflict, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first ones on me. But if you have watched this show before, it's like you are freeloader now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen this show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build the show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.